Hello, welcome to Recapping with Delora
and Ashley.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Recapping Podcast.
Also, comment, rate, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. We're on all the things.
We would love to hear your ratings of the movies and shows we review.
Email us your audio file to recappingpodcast@gmail.com and we will play it during the show.
Or DM us on Instagram and we will post and read it on air.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you.
I got the stuff that you want. I got the thing that you need. I got more than enough to make you drop to your knees. 'Cause I'm the queen of the night. Listen, guys. I teased this at the end of last episode. Hope you listen, because as a part of me and Delora's birthday month celebration, we are recapping our all-time favorite films. Delora, how you doing today, girl?
Fantastic, Ashley. I'm here for you. Okay.
I appreciate you. I got you next week, though. I got you. Because, guys, Delora's going to let me do my thing as we recap The Bodyguard. Released on November 25th, 1992. Grossed over $400 million worldwide. Runtime a little over 2 hours. Currently available to stream on HBO Max. According to Deadline, the film will return to the big screen to mark its 30th anniversary on Sunday, November 6th and Wednesday, November 9th.
Wow.
The Bodyguard soundtrack to this day is still the best-selling soundtrack of all time.
It's kind of ridiculous.
Tied for the 13th biggest selling disc in U.S. history with 18 million plus units. That's the power of Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston has never missed when it comes to a film soundtrack.
Never.
The Preacher's Wife, The Bodyguard, Waiting to Exhale.
Yes.
Loved all of them. By the way,
they never gave us Cinderella, but that's a whole nother story.
Listen, and that would have been fire.
Period.
Waiting to Exhale, we did recap that, so go back and take a listen.
Yes, we did. And Cinderella.
In 2021, it was announced that a remake of The Bodyguard was on the horizon, with Tony-nominated playwright Matthew Lopez attached to write the script. I'm not excited. I'm so sorry.
And should we recap The Preacher's Wife for Christmas?
We totally can. I wanted to this past year, remember? But it wasn't on any of the streaming services. Preacher's Wife is one of my favorite holiday films. Watch it every year.
Joy to the joy, girl, I was just about to say that joy to the world is beyond.
Whitney Houston has never missed on a film soundtrack. Okay, guys? Quick summary. An ex-Secret Service agent falls for his client, an actress/singer, someone once dead before the Academy Awards. Cast: Whitney Houston as Rachel Marin, Kevin Costner as Frank Farmer, Bill Cobbs as Devaney, Gary Kemp as Cy, Michelle Lamar Richards as Nikki, Christopher Burt as Henry, Mike Starr as Tony, Devon Nixon, what up, Fletcher? And Thomas Arana as Portman. Kevin Costner also served as a producer on this, which makes a lot of sense because he has said over the years that he was not going to do this project with anybody else. He waited for Whitney. She was insecure.
Who else could have done this?
At the time, nobody, baby. Nobody. And I don't know if you remember this, but he had talked about if they had done a sequel, they wanted it to be with Princess Diana before she passed. So.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that one.
Yeah. All right. Reviews. Rotten Tomatoes, 35% critic score. Fuck y'all. 64% audience score, but 81% of Google users gave this film a thumbs up. Delora, what is your grade for The Bodyguard?
Am I allowed to speak my truth in this moment?
Absolutely, you are. Absolutely. This is my favorite film. It does not have to be yours.
The Bodyguard, 1992. I am basing it off of my most recent watch of it. I give this film a B+.
Okay.
What saved this film was the soundtrack and elements of nostalgia. But this isn't even peak Kevin Costner in terms of his fineness. Okay.
I didn't know you had a thing for Kev.
I don't have a thing for him, but I'm not blind. How about that?
Got
him
it.
And JFK.
Got it.
Him, even now in freaking Yellowstone, is like, okay, great, Silver Fox, not peak Kevin Costner, so I couldn't really get into it the way I probably would have liked to, because you know me, I love a romance moment.
Yeah.
And as much as I love Whitney Houston, her acting was rough.
Really?
In some parts. And I don't know if it was a mixture of her acting and me just simply not liking Rachel.
She wasn't great.
She was abrasive, right?
Yeah, Rachel wasn't great.
But the beauty of Whitney, the talent, the singing. And then, of course, this movie has always had a soft spot in my heart. I have to say, rewatching it again, there are elements in my youth that I completely missed by a mile.
Yes.
But yeah, can't wait for this discussion.
That's the great thing about getting to see movies at different points in time in your life. I know I've said this before, but there's so many things you pick up over the years. Even every time I watch this movie, I talk about something a little bit differently, or I think about it a little bit differently. Because I think in this movie, when he goes to the movies with her, he says something like he's seen the movie that they went and saw like 62 times. And that was so much for her. She would be in shock at how many times I watched this movie. I used to watch this movie so many times, I swear I was going to burn out our little player, our little thing that, rewinds movies back in the day. I was going to burn. It was a little car. It was so cute. I was going to burn that out.
Was absolutely not a children's movie.
It was not. And I talked to my mother about this recently. I said, it was something that y'all was letting me watch The Bodyguard back in 1992. She was like, oh, it wasn't that bad. I was like, it was some sex. It wasn't bad sex scenes, but I was in love with Whitney Houston as a kid. So I appreciate that they allowed my fandom to, stick with her different projects that she did, because as y'all must know by now, my grade is an A++++, right? It's my favorite movie. And there was a period of time where I started feeling embarrassed to say it, just because at this point, with the level of movie love that I have, I know that there are so many better made, better storyline, all of that. But I think the thing that still resonates with me so much is, to your point, the talent, the nostalgia of it all. But what I just mentioned, like, I've grown and seen it in so many forms as I've grown in my life. So I still find it pleasurable every single time I watch it. My mom, I swear she gonna kill me, but last night she almost cried at the end of this movie. I was like, Mom, you would think we have not seen this movie a million times.
So you think they had good chemistry then?
I think they had good chemistry. Well, that's the last point I was gonna make, was as a kid, it didn't even dawn on me that this was a relationship between a white man and a black woman, right?
Yes.
That it was never mentioned, that it was not even a thing. That didn't even occur to me as a child, that the way it obviously does now as an adult. So yeah, I thought they had good chemistry though. What did you think about their chemistry? We can start with that.
It was just fine, in my opinion.
See, the kissing at the era though was trash to me.
Was like trash, right?
Yeah, that was hard.
The fake give me a kiss situation, which was like cheeks on top of cheeks. I don't know.
But that look she gives him when they first meet smoldered. I was like, oh.
So there were moments where I thought she did great. That first meeting, yes.
Chemistry, I think they had it. But again, I'm biased. So spoiler alert for anybody who has somehow, if you plan to not watch The Bodyguard, spoiler alert as we get into the good of this film. So we start the film off with a bang, literally, as we meet the bodyguard, Frank Farmer, who just had to save his latest client's life. Frank's philosophy is not to stay in one position too long, as he says his feet go to sleep. But for $3,000 a week, Frank is persuaded to take a meeting With movie star and singer Rachel Marin. He had said he didn't do celebrities. You must be very deadly for $3,000 a week, though, which is like $150K back in 1992.
A lot of money.
He was not impressed with her current security, staff, or her, quite frankly. Turns out Rachel wasn't worried at all about her security. She'd been shielded by her staff from death threats and a break-in at her house. So let's get into this initial scene and what you were thinking. What'd you think about this meeting and this introduction?
What did I think about this meeting and introduction? I think they were just establishing the characters, right? Like, she's the artist. She's obviously Queen Bee. I am surprised that she didn't take her security as serious as one at her caliber would need.
Yeah.
But, he was the brooding bodyguard, you know what I mean? And I don't blame him for not wanting to work for someone who didn't understand his value, because obviously he's extremely valuable based off his experience and paycheck.
Guys, he worked for the Secret Service. I mean, he's gone into personal security. Absolutely can't do better than Frank.
But the fact that her staff didn't tell her that someone came into her house, relieved themselves on her sheets, like, what the really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna need for you to tell me. Thanks.
I would agree. I think that Cy in particular really bothered me throughout this film in terms of his level of trying to control the narrative, not only around Rachel, but of Rachel herself, right? You're trying to shield her so much, but it's not because you care about her, in my opinion. It was because you cared about the gains that you would make based off of her being in the dark.
And I think that's a great point, because I think throughout the film, it's like, how do you move without being paralyzed by fear, right?
Yeah. Well, I think you still need to have a healthy dose, because Rachel, at this point, Tony, my one guy, Tony, has been my security, and I think we've done just fine. Girl, if you only knew the half of it, right?
Right.
I love this initial introduction and meeting, because I love we get to see kind of the assessment that Frank is making of everything and of the situation. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Testing the waters. And it was even worse than I think he had expected. So thank God for Devaney, who was able to convince him to stick around. And he decided to take the gig after he realized the extent of everything that had gone on. Rachel was very particular about her son, Fletcher, and him not being affected by anything. But Fletcher knew exactly who Frank was when they met. My guy was not dumb. Okay. You must be the bodyguard.
I think parents do a disservice trying to, quote unquote, hide and shield their children, because children are intelligent.
Yes.
Give them the benefit of the doubt until proven wrong. Okay. You'd be surprised.
Absolutely. Frank seems transfixed when he watches Rachel in the video for I Want to Run to You, Girl. Do you think he was recognizing her talent, or had he started falling for his client?
I think he is a red-blooded American. And she is not an ugly woman. So I think...
Not at all.
I don't think that was... Because let's keep it real. It's one thing to be attractive and wanting to bang, and it's another thing to fall in love. So I feel like he was fascinated by her talent, and he was fascinated by her beauty.
I, to this day, have still tried to figure out how I felt about this scene. For one, why was the music so loud? To this day, every time I watch this movie, that's what I think. Because one could say he was shocked, because the way that he makes it seem, he wasn't into any of this stuff. So he didn't know who she was.
Yes.
He had never seen her perform. And if you're seeing Whitney Houston perform for the first time, hell yeah, that's probably going to be the look on your face. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there's that. But then also, I do think that there was that attraction. I think there was that spark of, and I also wondered, was it the first time he's seeing a level of vulnerability from Rachel? Because in that video, she's in the white, she's running, the lyrics to the song make her sound like she needs you. You know what I mean? And Rachel kind of had a harder outer shell than that she presented the few times that they had interacted so far. So that was my thought, was like, oh, this is, you know, you a man and you like, oh, I'm seeing this softer side to this woman and it's beautiful. So I just had to ask. Rachel's safety issues come to a head at an impromptu gig at a local club. She was finally told about the threats and almost opted not to perform. Almost. Frank had to ultimately rescue her from the crowd. Were you surprised, talking about a star of her caliber, that she went to this club with so little security precautions and then that the show went on?
No, because I feel like, I don't know if it's very clear in the film, but I think there's an element when it comes to some of the celebrities when they're on the rise that they don't gauge appropriately, like how much, you know, impact they're making in terms of like, yeah, you're going to definitely need a bigger boat. You know what I mean?
But she's not even on the rise. She is there. She is a star at this point.
But when it comes to security issues too, if it is impromptu, you're less likely to plan for, you know, threat and things along those lines. So I think she was just trying to wing it, frankly. Like, let's go ahead and get, you know, make the surprise gig, give the people what they want. But obviously when keeping it real goes wrong, right?
Yeah, she looked great though. These ensembles in this film.
Honestly, that is, with my rewatch, and obviously I've since seen this movie from my initial watch when I watched it when I was under 10 years old. But that scene always sticks out to me, like out of the whole movie, that particular one. And then him picking her up, that just is like cinched in my brain.
And that is the movie poster, the main movie poster.
Yeah.
Him having her in his arms. This was definitely poor judgment, in my opinion, on everybody's part. Like, I think that everybody should have been a little bit more insistent. I understand she's the boss, though. She's a star, and if she decides this is what she wants to do, I know there's not actually any stopping her. But this was chaotic. Even security at the club couldn't do crowd control with the way that this situation went. You know, you have a stalker. He literally sent you a letter at the club while you were there. It just was a failure across the board on my part, and not on my part, in my opinion.
Yeah. And
I'm glad that she was able to make it out of the situation. But, you know, I was thinking his last couple watches, Frank probably would have got sued today, though, because he was kicking some people in the face. He was doing everything he had to do to get sis out that club.
But, I mean, that's what made him get his job, right? It's like, by any means necessary.
He sure did. Earned everybody's respect that night, including Tony, in one of my favorite scenes.
You like that?
Frank. Girl, Frank said, I don't want to talk about this again, after he threw a knife at his head. Because him and Tony, I get that they rubbed up against each other because Tony feels like Frank is replacing him as security. Yes. But you could learn so much from Frank, and your ego initially didn't allow for that because you thought you had everything covered. So
true.
He had to show you who the fuck you were messing with just one good time. Rachel, after this night, turns very sweet and makes a move on Frank and asks him out on a date. And shockingly, he says yes.
I wrote this in my notes. I didn't know that she was the one to ask him on a date. It never really processed. I'm like, oh, so she's the one out here talking about, hey, you up?
They did a little movie. They went to dinner. They did a little dancing. And back to Frank's house.
What I didn't realize was I Will Always Love You was their first dance.
Yes, it was. Wink, wink.
Had no idea in terms of like it registered like, oh, there we go. This is why I'm in so much.
Wink, wink, baby. And the original variation or version that Dolly Parton intended.
Right.
The next morning, Frank turns stone cold, says he made a mistake getting involved with his client. Delora, why this sudden epiphany after the deed is already done?
Because he's gone and he doesn't like not having control. She put it on him.
I'm gonna tell y'all what, as a kid, I was on Frank's side, right? I was a child. I was like, this woman is tripping. Why is she so upset? Had no idea. As a grown woman, Frank is trash for this.
180. Like, you didn't even give me my morning cuddles. Like,
she woke up full glow. She woke up in a playful, cute little mood. You couldn't let her have this, or you couldn't at least come at your reaction and response in a different way, Frank? I felt some type of way. I know that it seems like Rachel is going to be tripping hereafter, but let's remember this moment, people. Let's remember why.
Because she came at him hard, though. Post this, it was rough.
She about to show up and show out for damn sure. Because off to Miami we go to charity events at the famous Fontainebleau Hotel. Rachel looked stunning. That crystal dress, still gets me every time. But she was still pissed at Frank and tried to make him jealous by hooking up with his fellow bodyguard and former colleague Portman in the middle of the party.
Was it worth it though? Like,
it's not.
I was like, I know you're obsessive, but really?
It was not. It was just not even a good look. Like,
no.
And you can have any of these men. This the one? Portman? Ew. Frank was ready to quit at the end of this trip. She tried him a couple times. She disappeared on a little shopping trip. He ended up beating up a little innocent man in the kitchen.
Listen, it was rough.
Do you think Rachel went too far?
She was out here calling him deadbeat and that you work for me. I literally put in my notes. I was like, girl, please. Him out here randomly picking fights with people.
I think he may have beat that man to death too if his wife hadn't stopped him.
But again, that's that jealousy. This is part of the reason why her acting was rough for me. I didn't know, because it was so like, you're such a deadbeat. And I'm just like, is this because I don't like her character, or is the delivery not where I needed to be? Because it just seems so extra. You know what I mean?
That's so funny. See, her acting has never been something I've critiqued harshly. Maybe it's because it was her first film. Yeah. I feel like she did her thing with it.
I feel like what I will say is she definitely got better. Waiting to Exhale, Peter's Wife, I don't think about her acting in those roles. Cinderella, never.
Yeah.
But in this movie, I feel the green. I do.
First time out the gate, but she sold it for me still. Like, she is Rachel. Like, I almost have to be like, Whitney, was this you? Like, was this your general behavior of that era? Did you have some of this?
Listen,
some of these qualities?
Would it?
Not the way people describe the nippy, because people talk about the real Whitney. Nippy.
And then there's nippy. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. One could say Rachel went a little bit too far, right? Again, I think the whole Portman situation was not a good look. But like I said, remember the catalyst of all of this behavior. Like, I don't like the idea of just because a guy doesn't have the same level of like emotional reaction to a situation the way that a woman may, means that her behavior is less justified than he is.
She's also a star who gets whatever she wants.
There's that.
9 times out of 10.
There's that. But I also think there's a way to treat people after you've gotten in their guts. And this just was not it.
I agree. I'm not saying he is without, fault. But she definitely was swinging her power around when it came to him.
Remember, you work here. You work for me. She was on one for damn sure.
I mean, it was like, is the crowd necessary? Well, quit bitching, farmer.
This is the what part you do get paid for. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, yeah. Okay, Rachel. Okay, Whitney.
with her skin glowing. I was like, I can't even be that mad at you. You look so beautiful. It's upsetting. Rachel changes her tune when she gets a phone call from her presumed stalker. He agrees to stay on, Frank does, but with conditions, and takes her and the fam out of town to his father's place, this remote lakeside cabin home. Was it wise for Frank to take her to his father's house given the threats on her life?
I was really surprised by that. Part of me understood it because no one would have connected the dots, frankly. But then the other part of me was thinking, he really does care about her. He really does. And
because how many other clients get to meet daddy?
Highly doubt it. Highly doubt it. So, and then it was so beautiful, those views. And I put in my notes, Kevin Costner in nature. Surprise. Ironic. It's like we have Dances with Wolves. We have Waterworld. We even have freaking Field of Dreams in his current role in Yellowstone. Like him, Kevin Costner in a mountain isn't really far-fetched.
Yo, his daddy was a real one though for being down with this. You know what I mean? So appreciated him. I enjoyed his father. This is a movie. Remember when guys, Delora, and one of our other friends, Shamika, did a game night recently where we got together and Delora is getting her chess on and me and Shamika are not into chess, but this is the movie I referenced. And I was like, some people play chess, the same game for years. It's because I'm thinking about this game between Frank and his dad that they said they've been playing for 3 years, which is crazy.
I love it.
Are you as good as Fletcher? Because Fletcher, his moves were A1.
Very impressive. Something I'm shooting for my baby girl. I'm not bad, okay? But I still have a lot to learn.
Girl, all of y'all are ahead of me. That's all I can say. I told you, I knew the knight moved in the L. That's about it.
Well, like I was telling you and Shamika, it's like, I feel like chess can be such a metaphor for life. Like the way I've been playing has been very defensive. So I need to work on my opening so I can work on my offense. Like I need to stop being so reactive when I play. So.
Gotcha. This trip, unfortunately, did not stay peaceful for long. Fletcher was almost blown up in a boat.
Girl.
The phone lines were cut, and a killer makes their move. Nikki, Rachel's sister, had unfortunately hired said killer to take her out due to her envy. She ends up getting killed instead. Delora, what did you think of Nikki as a character throughout this film and about this confession the night of her murder?
I referred to Nikki throughout all my notes as Dirty Nikki. I also put jealousy is unbecoming.
Man.
She was salty since the first time she was on that screen.
Absolutely.
And what surprised me the most is that apparently Rachel was too busy to notice or something, because I wouldn't keep that energy around me.
And the thing is, maybe she noticed. I just don't think one would ever think that your own sister would hire a hitman to try to kill you.
Along with the confession of, I would never pay anyone to hurt the baby. You would hurt the baby by killing his mother.
I say that every time I watch this movie. Like, how are you not hurting Fletcher? Even if you don't kill him, you're taking his mother from him, ma'am. But clearly she's gone, that you would even have gone this route in the first place. My thing with Nikki is, you could have been Solange, sis. You could have been Solange. You could have been out here doing your own thing. You chose to live in your sister's shadow your whole life. You chose to work for her. You chose to give up on your own dreams. I'm so
glad that you said that, because I was like, what are your choices? Who said that you had to be with Rachel? No one said that.
By the time she makes a move on Frank at that cabin, I'm like, so you literally have tried to have the seconds of everything your sister has probably ever had. You went after this man knowing he had just been fucking your sister. You could have chosen somebody else. Why? Is
Gross.
it's all in your head. I wish that y'all mom had been like Miss Tina and put y'all in therapy as children, as she recently said, to help combat these types of feelings and these types of issues. The side eye that Nikki had throughout this entire film towards her sister, you've made this bed.
Like I said, I'm surprised Rachel let her stay around. I would never let someone with that type of energy be around me. The quintessential don't kill my vibe. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
you know what's crazy too is you think back to scenes where she was talking about, Rachel, I think it's time you take my precautions. What? The precautions from the killer that you hired to murder me? It's just wild. It's just wild when you look at the full picture.
Desperate do you have to be to where you're like, yes, I am hiring a killer to kill my sister? What?
She said, I paid him and then some until it's done. Do you think that Rachel ever found out the truth?
Honestly, I don't know, Ashley. I don't know, because nothing really gives me the indication that, yes, she knew about it, because at that point she was grieving her sister and she was trying to get her award season on. You know what I mean?
I don't think he ever told her. I don't think she ever found out that it was Nikki who did this.
Do you think she should know?
That's a good question, because my mom brought up the fact that, is it better to like hate your sister, or is it better to live with the guilt of possibly feeling like you were responsible for your sister's death? You know what I mean?
And those are very strong emotions.
Yep, exactly. So I don't think she was probably ever told, though. I do think that Frank would have taken that and not put that on her, but I'm not sure which I think is worse, because the way that Nikki was set up in this movie, she got what she asked for, in my opinion. She got what she asked for.
Agreed.
It's Oscars night, the Academy Awards, and Rachel decides to still attend despite the killer still on the loose, since she's up for Best Actress. She wins, and the killer, who turns out to be Portman, makes his move.
Dun,
Frank,
dun, dun.
girl, Frank takes that bullet to save her and takes Portman out. Can you imagine if this ish went down at the Academy Awards?
Slap where? Slap who?
That would be out the window, wouldn't it? Out the window. Did you have any idea? Can you remember having any idea or inkling that Portman was going to turn out to be the killer?
No. I think this is where the movie succeeds in the element of surprise, providing that thriller. There were so many roads that led to different directions. You had the creepy fan guy, the blonde hair. You had the guy that showed up at the cabin, and then you found out about the sister. And we've seen Portman. We knew he was a jackass based off of Florida, but the assumption is he's similar to Farmer, just a retired bodyguard for, pay. I didn't see that coming.
When I think about the things that happened after the reveal of Portman tried to get hired as her bodyguard. He would have taken her out so easily had that happened. He was around, obviously, during the Miami trip. He could have taken her out then, yet you chose to try to sleep with her instead. How crazy and messed up is that? You show up because you're friends with Frank, so you knew where Frank's daddy lived. Like, so many things. I was like, wow, this was really, Portman was really calculating a lot as this film was going on, and we just have no awareness of it. But the fact that even after he shot Frank, he was going to try to take that final shot one more time. I was like, he's diabolical, bro.
Yeah.
There was going to be no stopping him. You had to kill him. You had to kill him.
Yeah, I agree.
As we wrap, Frank and Rachel decide to go their separate ways. Did you think Frank would break his rule of not staying in one position too long for Rachel?
Ashley, you have had more time to ponder this question than I have. That's a Great question.
He has been in the sheets with her. He has bonded with her child. He has saved her life. If there was going to be an exception,
She would be it.
This might have been it.
But I think his pride would probably prevent him from doing that, because what would he do for a living if being a bodyguard is all he knew? And it's not like he was going to sit back and let her be his sugar mama. Sugar mama, sugar mama. But I don't think she would have wanted to be in a relationship with someone whose life was on the line on a regular basis either.
That's a good point, because at the end of the movie, this last time I watched it, I was like, why couldn't Frank and Rachel still mess around on occasion? Like, I'm not working for you anymore. We could have some rendezvous. You have access, but to your point, maybe it would be too much. And, you know, Frank takes his job very, very seriously.
Very.
So I'm sure he's not necessarily taking breaks for booty calls, but it's a little bit of a solitary life that he's leading in that case. And I think
he can control that. And I think he probably prefers it that way because, again, love makes you vulnerable. Hence his 180 reaction the day after he got in those draws.
Yeah,
I
was hurt for her. I was like, bro.
He needed better etiquette. Like, do you know what it takes to get these?
on these $1 million sheets at that? Nah, I forgot they were at Frank's house. His sheets probably came from the local store.
Kmart.
But no, absolutely.
I was literally gonna say Kmart and Sears, stores that unfortunately no longer
are gone.
Exist.
But this was 92, baby. This was 1992. Those were still in play. This end is obviously huge, not only because we have the wait as she hops out of the plane and makes the last, you know, passionate, as we said, not the best looking, but passionate kiss with Frank. And we have the huge I Will Always Love You to wrap the song with her with those beautiful go hoops that I need to find somewhere because they are everything. And give me your final thoughts about The Bodyguard. And did you have a favorite look of Rachel's in this film?
Final thoughts on The Bodyguard. Man, it was still very entertaining from the beginning to the end. The songs, the music is just unreal. It's just truly unreal. I don't know a movie that has really touched me in a way that, like, because a lot of soundtrack songs these days aren't even in the movies like that anymore. Like,
they're just at the end.
They're just at the end. And the fact that we had these fantastic, memorable songs woven throughout the entire film was such a treat in the rewatch of it all. Also, I want to say Queen of the Night definitely gave me some In Vogue vibes for sure. Final thoughts. The other scene that was embedded in my brain as a child was the samurai and the scarf.
Yes.
I mean, I know it alluded to some things, but rewatching it, I'm like, she really out here swinging that sharp ass sword around like it wouldn't hurt anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And he just sat there. But I did think it was like, okay, sir. He stood up. He was like, you ain't gonna hurt me.
Girl, put his chest right at the tip of the knife.
Like,
or the sword, rather. Yeah.
Okay.
Like his daddy said, Frank, nothing scares Frank. If it does, he keeps doing it. Fearless.
I thought it was interesting to find out that he was Reagan's bodyguard. I thought that was an interesting twist as an adult, because again, it meant nothing to me as a child watching that. And my final question is, were they drinking Kool-Aid when they were playing chess? I'm like, did the black infiltration happen that soon?
Did you have a favorite look of Rachel's throughout her wardrobe changes?
Thank you for reiterating that. I think the club look is the most memorable look for me.
Okay.
I have to say I did not enjoy the Oscar look at all. I was like, oh, this is dated for sure.
It's definitely of that era. Absolutely. It's the crystal dress for me, though. The crystal dress at the charity benefit.
Yes.
Flawless look. I could not find any still images of that outfit anywhere. If somebody sees it, send it to me, please. final thoughts again. Thank you so much for this opportunity to recap my favorite film that has stuck with me forever for all these years.
Hopefully it's everything you wanted it to be, Ashley.
You know, like I said, I could have waxed on way more. I reeled it in for the sake of you guys and not, trying to break down every scene because it could have happened. But no, I loved it because like I said, this movie has grown and changed so much. So it's always fun to kind of revisit what it means to you at a particular time in your life. So that's what this is for me. Whitney Houston, rest in peace, baby. Rest in peace. You were the
I
GOAT.
Sometimes don't think about that.
Of vocalists.
There were like years it took me before I could listen to her music without crying. Because she was literally the voice, such a talent that every time I would hear her music shortly after her passing, it just broke my heart over just the loss of it all. You know what I mean?
I think I had mourned her so much even while she was still alive due to the spiral into addiction that I saw. Because again, I was obsessively in love with her as a talent and as an artist back in the day. And so there was so much that went into that, but obviously the loss of life and then the circumstances of it and the way everything went down, and it was right before the Grammys and all this stuff. It was just so crazy. So, we're about to have the biopic coming to theaters. I Want to Dance with Somebody, and we'll see how that goes because there's a lot to live up to for me with the Whitney Houston. So
absolutely.
Excited for our next recap, guys, which will be Delora's favorite film, but we'll keep it a mystery. We'll keep it a mystery for now. On that note, let's get into hidden gems for the week. Delora, what do you have for the people?
Hidden gems. All right, Ashley, I have 2 this week. The first, it's a band that I've loved since college. They are back after taking a break. The lead singer, Hayley Williams, has since come out with an album on her own, but they have announced a tour and a new album in 2023, and they released their first single, and it's called This Is Why. This is why I don't leave the house. I love it because I adore Paramore. Like, you have no idea. Like, Riot is my album, and I love so many songs in between. It's an anthem for everybody who was afraid to go outside. And I appreciate the humor, and I also appreciate the rock and roll. And Kelly, I love her. But the song made me giggle, and I wanted to share it. My second hidden gem is a novel. Surprise, surprise. You guys, you have no idea how many novels I've been knocking down. But I am going to highlight this one because it is devastatingly gorgeous. It's so funny. One of my favorite, I guess this is an indirect hidden gem, but one of my favorite accounts to follow is Phenomenal Books. And there's this post that they made that said, me recommending a book. This book destroyed me. This book ripped my very being apart. I read the end sobbing in a fetal position on the floor, and I didn't move for 3 hours. Please read it. Highly recommend it.
The Fault in Our Stars.
The Fault in Our fucking Stars. Ashley and I think this was, okay, since this is our birthday, I'm going to elaborate just a little bit more. When we were in our masters together and early in our friendship, we really would read books and then watch the movies. And that was one of them.
Breaking. Okay.
Heart freaking breaking. Okay. So 7 Days in June by Tia Williams, Black author, woman author, Reese Witherspoon book club pick. It came out June 2021. It is fiction, romance novel, contemporary literature. I have been on a rom-com kick, but this one is much more than that. It's drama, it's young love, it's rekindled love. It is beautiful. I highly recommend it. It is not fetal position. It's not that. No worries, because again, I'm still looking for my happy endings. Okay. But you go through some things, and again, beautiful. One of the best books I've read, and I've read about 40 already this year.
So, my endorsement.
So 7 Days in June. Check it out. Ashley, what are your hidden gems?
All right. I have two as well. My first one is one I believe I've had as a hidden gem before, but it's season 2 of The Hype on HBO Max, which is a streetwear fashion competition show. Speedy from Complex is back as the host, along with Offset, Beth Gibbs, and Marnie Senofonte as the judges. Winner gets $150K. 6 episodes out currently, with new episodes dropping on Thursdays. If you get into the fashion competitions like I do, particularly this one, very culturally influenced in terms of some of the different challenges that they have, things like that. You have 2 people from Ohio, OH, who are contestants on this season. So check it out. My second hidden gem is actually a place, Valley Vineyards, which is an Ohio winery. And I'm actually sipping out of a Valley Vineyards glass at the moment. I've been once years before. Love any excuse to sip on some wine. This is located about 30-40 minutes south of Dayton. They have Dayton, Ohio, that is, guys. They have wine and beer options, as well as some good food too. And that puts them over the top for me, because I don't like going to places where I can't also have some eats. Indoor and outdoor space to enjoy. We caught a live music performance while we were there, so it was just overall a good time. So I highly recommend checking out Valley Vineyards. And those are my 2 hidden gems, guys. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Like I said, our next recap will be Delora's favorite film. But in the meantime, before that, we'll of course have another headlines and hot topics episode to dive into. So can't wait to talk shop. Delora, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Ashley.
Whole month of October is ours, baby.
Let's go.
Guys, be blessed. We'll see you next time.
Bye.